Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalist Roundtable, we discuss the conflict of interest between Andy Tobin and the Corporation Commission. We'll also talk about a bill to settle the power dispute between Diane Douglas and the Board of Education. The Journalist Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalist Roundtable. I'm Steve Goldstein in for Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Rachel Langang of the Arizona Capital Times, Howard Fisher of Capital Media Services, and Mike Sunnix from the Phoenix Business Journal. The conflict of interest between Andy Tobin and the Arizona Corporation Commission could keep Tobin from doing his job in future hearings. Howie, what is the conflict of interest?
The problem becomes that the law says if you have a conflict because of some potential financial interest, you shouldn't participate in things. Now, Andy Tobin has no interest in APS, not in the phone industry like his predecessor, Susan Bittersmith. But it turns out his son-in-law is an inventory control specialist up in Dewey for Solar City. Now, Solar City's not regulated, but if you may remember the name because of the fact that every time APS tries to make adjustments in what they're going to charge their solar customers, Solar City comes in and says, "Why are you doing that?" This was not caught by the governor's office. The governor uses Andy as sort of his utility player. I mean, he's had Andy heading weights and measures, insurance, banking. He said, "I know, I've got a vacancy. I'll put him over here at the Corporation Commission." And it wasn't until Andy sat down with the CorpCom lawyers, they said, "Well, you may have a problem here. So discretion being the better part of valor, do not vote on anything where Solar City might be interested."
Rachel, is the Ducey administration saying anything about that? Are they saying they didn't do due diligence on this?
They're saying this is an example of why Andy Tobin is a stand-up guy. He told everyone he had this conflict of interest. He was calling around to the media and letting them know, and he's been pretty upfront about it. And the commission's lawyers may be a bit more cautious on this one than they were with Bittersmith, which clearly didn't go their way. So they're not to be blamed for being a bit more cautious. This is a lot different, I would say, than the Bittersmith circumstance. So.
But considering what's gone on with Bittersmith and the other members and the questions about the ties to APS and the solar fight, maybe this could have happened maybe before you appointed him, and maybe you had a list of are you a lobbyist for any of these companies? Do you have any relatives working for any of these companies? Do you have any interest in any of these companies? And you kind of ask that, and then there's a couple big companies that they're dealing with right now. APS, Solar City are two of them, and the fact that that didn't come up at some point, it kind of shows that it kind of fell through the cracks.
And what's
a big crack.
And what's important is, people say, well, there are legislators voting on things that might affect their relatives. The difference is that the commission is not only legislative, it's judicial. And once you're serving in the position of a judge, you really have to be, cleaner than Caesar's wife, so to speak.
Well, you can make an argument that APS is a player in all kinds of rate cases, because what they do with other utilities, APS looks at that, and sometimes they testify on that. And if he's voting on things, and the blood between Solar City and utilities like APS is so bad that you can look through a kind of a lens and see a problem in a lot of votes, no matter how he votes.
And that's where it gets tricky. We saw from the SunZia vote just this past week, which was a 3-2 vote, with Tobin siding with the company to be able to build this power line, that this could make a big difference. Now, if he's conflicted out, let's assume it's a 2-2 vote. A 2-2 vote fails because it did not get the majority.
Right, and it's not just APS that Solar City intervenes on. Any of these big utilities in the state, Tucson Electric, UNS Electric, all of them are considering things related to solar, and Solar City almost always intervenes on these. So they're a major player at the commission.
It's bizarre to me, though, that we're going to reach this stage where these are the absolute topics that everyone pays attention to when it comes down to the Corporation Commission. And we're going to end up with 2-2 votes on a number of major issues. I mean, is this going to be a lot of anger at some point from activists or something?
Oh, I think so. Again, it depends on how it goes. Now, there are certain things that may get out 4-0. There are issues that even if Solar City is involved, Andy can sit on the sidelines and say, "Boy, am I glad I'm not involved in this one." But because of the sensitivity of what we had Susan Bittersmith essentially being forced out over her roles as a lobbyist and heading the Cable Television Association. There were charges against Bob Burns as being a registered lobbyist. There was more of a paperwork problem. There were charges against Bob Stump, or allegations that because of the fact he's made speeches about what he thinks should be the recovery of utilities from solar customers. Maybe he's prejudged the issue. So this is a very sensitive topic that folks should be aware of.
You have the Republican Party obviously running things down there, and Howie mentioned legislatures. We've run in this with charter schools. We've got people working for charter schools that are sponsoring bills and sometimes voting sometimes. And maybe this is a function of the fact that you only got one party kind of running things down there, and the emperor has no clothes on these things, and they don't seem to notice what they're doing.
Howie, briefly, when I mentioned activists, I was thinking of Attorney Tom Ryan. What does he have to say about this?
Well, he said some things that I probably can't repeat on a family show about what he thought of the Ducey administration and what they thought of and the fact they didn't do their due diligence. But his feeling was not that necessarily it was illegal, particularly with Andy going to take a pass on this, but that it shows a certain tone deafness to the whole issue.
Rachel, any final thoughts from the Ducey administration on this? As you said, they're supporting Tobin all the way.
Right, yeah, and they want to make a distinction between, what happened with Susan Bittersmith, and the commission's under microscope right now, rightfully so. There's been a lot of interest from the general public. Well, maybe not a lot, but more than before. So people are paying attention to it, and something like this, which in the past might not have been as big of an issue, there will be more interest in it going forward, depending on how often he's going to have to recuse himself. And we don't really know yet at that point. How much is this going to happen? So.
Well, just imagine if he was running for this office right now, and he had to go tell voters, well, I can't vote on all these things related to two big companies that are before this panel.
Howie, we were talking about votes of the Corporation Commission. What about ballot harvesting? It sounds so gentle and delicate.
Well, yes. I mean, I've been watering my ballots every morning and fertilizing them. This is one of the questions of the opportunity for fraud. Arizona is pretty much unique in the fact that if I get an early ballot, and Arizona is very liberal on this, and you don't have to have a reason, I can give it to you to take back. You can go out to get Mike's ballot, you can go out and get Rachel's ballot, and bring them all in saying, look, you're not going to get it back on time. The question is, let's say you kind of know how Rachel's going to vote, you don't particularly like how Rachel votes, and you say, oops, I lost that ballot. And it's the opportunity for fraud, I think, that concerns some folks. Now, the other side of it is sometimes you'll get activist groups out there saying, look, in a lot of neighborhoods, people leave the early ballot. School bond elections, people forget about it. And so the teachers will go out and try to collect the ballots, make sure it's turned in to get the kind of turnout. Does this amount to voter suppression? And that's, of course, the argument of the Democrats.
Right, and Howie says opportunity for fraud. There's no proven voter fraud in any of these things. And that comes up in any hearing on ballot harvesting, as it probably should. And a lot of people have maybe second, third-hand, fourth-hand stories that they can tell. But as of now, we don't really have verified voter fraud.
And the only story we do have is not Helen Purcell, but Karen Osborne, who's a county elections director, said, there have been people showing up at people's doors saying, hi, we're a county election worker. We're here to get your ballot.
Those are from the Ted Cruz campaign,
yes.
I believe.
Yes.
So.
But here's the thing. That is already illegal to misrepresent yourself as a county election worker. But somehow this is going to lead to change in the law.
If you're a conservative Republican, you've registered Republican, it gets into your bloodstream that you think there's voter fraud out there sometimes. Republicans have believed this since 1960 with John Kennedy, LBJ, those elections. They believe that they think of Chicago and Tammany Hall and these old-time Democratic cities doing this, and there's some kind of these groups of Democrats running around picking up Gore or Bernie Sanders ballots, and there's really no evidence of that. And if they're going to be genuine, they might as well have a list of who they don't want to collect these ballots: labor unions, Sierra Club, Planned Parenthood. But if Senator Arizona Policy or NRA wants to pick these up, it's okay. But there are exceptions for family members and stuff. But they run. This is the kind of a perennial bill that they seem to run every year, and they'd like to run in other states too.
But the funny part is, there were admissions from some Republicans during some of the debates that Republican interests have done this. They'll have something set up at a party headquarters, and they will do quote-unquote ballot harvesting, but they think that this really benefits the Democrats and their activist groups more.
Well, Mike, to deal in idle speculation, complete speculation, when we think about Latino voters and people wonder, if Latino voters vote, they seem to lean Democrat at this point. And it seems like this could be a way to suppress Latino voting as well.
I mean, every time this issue comes up, Democrats cry suppression. They look at Republicans pass behavior on things like motor voter and voter registration, making that easier. And this seems to fit the narrative that they want to block people from voting. They think of labor unions, but mostly that they would go around and collect these ballots and stuff. I mean, the liberal media, I get Howie's Bernie Sanders and a ballot to the ballot box pretty easily there. But I think they view this as something that Democratic groups would take advantage of, especially unions.
Ballot harvesting isn't as simple as just collecting ballots. It involves a whole get out the vote effort and getting people registered to vote, making sure they're getting on the early ballot list, and then following up later and making sure that their ballot actually gets in. So,
And since this is something the Secretary of State is a fan of, one would think it's going to advance.
not a fan of ballot harvesting, but a fan of
Of the legislation,
yeah,
yes.
of the legislation. Yeah.
Well, and there's some tricky points to this. One of the things that came up during this week during debate is, so you go down, let's say you live in San Luis where there is no home delivery, and you go, your neighbor says, hey, can you pick up my mail while you're there? Well, you go there and you pick up your neighbor's mail in his or her box. You take that unvoted ballot back to him. You're guilty of ballot harvesting. You're a felon. You can go to prison for a year.
Well, it's also younger voters, kids in college who maybe are a little more liberal, maybe they like Bernie Sanders, get ballots at home, and somebody could fill those out for them. I think Republicans fear some of that. They fear bigger turnout sometimes, according to Democrats, and this kind of fits that argument.
Now, back in the day, Friday used to be sort of boxing night around the country. Diane Douglas versus whoever she's taking on. Now it's Diane Douglas versus the state legislature. Rachel, what do you make of this particular fight? Senator Jeff Dial, the legislation he's pushing.
Right. So she has the most fantastic press releases that are just absolutely out there. She accused Dial of being anti-education, anti-parents, anti-children, you name it.
And pro-Common Core.
Yeah, pro-Common Core, which is, a death sentence. So she went to the Senate and, really took him on face to face, and you ended up having the president of the Senate come down and say, you don't get to come here, and, cast aspersions on people and say that, he's doing this for a certain reason when you don't know motivations. So.
The issue is, Diane notwithstanding, there is a problem in the law. Title 15, which is the Education Code, says the state board hires its own staff on recommendation of the department, the superintendent. It also says that the state board employees are subject to the supervision of the Department of Education. Well, if you're the state board and you're trying to institute a policy, let's say Common Core, which the state board did, and then you have a school superintendent who is against Common Core telling them, don't do what your employers tell you, you've got a problem there. So Jeff Dial's solution was simply to say, state board, they're your employees, you get to control them. And Diane says, well, wait, first she said it was unconstitutional, and then she backed away and said, well, you're stripping me of my powers as I'm elected and they're all appointed. Here's the problem she has legally. If you go to the Arizona Constitution, it says, there is a school superintendent who has the powers as established by the legislature. The legislature could say you have no powers at all, and they would be within their rights.
Let's look at it from her lens. She ran against John Huppenthal, an establishment Republican. All the establishment backed him until the Falcon 9 debacle. And then they went and supported her Democratic opponent, right? She carried rural states. I don't think she carried majority in Maricopa County. She still won, right? Rural counties. And now she goes to office. She fights with the Board of Education. She fights with the governor. She sees these bills at the legislature is against her. So she sees herself as fighting against this huge establishment, including Common Core, and everything that they do is aimed at usurping her power. And she sees herself as entitled by the people, because she won that election, to stand up and take this leadership role, even if it doesn't fit the legal frameworks or any kind of
And
precedents.
during the committee, she was saying too, like, what if this happened to you? What if you were a legislator in name only? What would that feel like? And she has a good point. It would feel pretty bad, I assume. I mean, you have been elected by the people.
And she feels she has a mandate because
Right.
she had no money. She wasn't supposed to win. All the powers that be, the chambers of commerce,
But-
the establishment was against her. Politically, she thinks she has a mandate that they're trying to take away from her.
Except for the small fact that is the board that sets policy. Now, it's true, the board is not elected. She sits on the board, the only elected member. The other members are appointed by the governor. So most of them are holdovers from the prior administration. The board sets policy. Her job is to implement that policy even if she disagrees with it. And I think that's going down real hard.
They need a bill, however, about who gets to hold the microphone over there.
Let's briefly assess where Diane Douglas is at right now. Considering the first couple of months in office, recall effort didn't go anywhere. Rachel, based on what you see and what you hear, what's the perception of Diane Douglas 1 year into this job?
Well, you mentioned that the recall didn't go anywhere, so clearly there's not enough groundswell of support. And they were not well funded, and I think people had sort of dim projections on how they would do in the first place. But there hasn't been this super vocal movement to try to get her out or anything like that. But she's certainly been a thorn in the side of, I don't know, nearly everyone. The list is getting longer each week. So.
Except for the fact that you didn't find the education community back in the recall. And the reason is, I think there are two Diane Douglases. There's a Diane Douglas who churns out press releases saying the world is out to get me. And there are Diane Douglases who come to the legislature with her State of Education speech and say, teachers are underpaid, we need to do more. We are 49th, this is not a good way of doing it. And so, as I say, there are days that she takes that role of protecting education and wanting us to do better, seriously, and then these little side fights tend to blow up everything else.
Yeah, I think she struck a chord when she told the governor and the Republicans down there to spend the surplus on education, on teacher pay, like Howie said. I think I kind of compare a little bit to Arpaio, where you see the establishment, the business community, the Republican political establishment don't like her and wouldn't like her to be there, but they're not ever willing to put enough skin or money or power into the game to get rid of her. And she could be back for another term.
And Howie, major progress being made on pension reform, at least on the Senate side. What does the legislation do?
The legislation goes to the fact the public safety personnel retirement system, which is the police and firefighters, they're about $6 billion in debt, and that's almost as much as you guys make on pledge. The problem becomes it's not getting any better because you have certain built-in things where you can have 4% a year pension increases. You have existing employees who can retire starting after 20 years, and then eventually, if they work long enough, they can get 80% of their salary. You have pension spiking in some circumstances where you put all your sick pay into the last year and you get a benefit. This is designed to cap pension spiking, tell new employees you will work longer to get the same level of benefits, require new employees to contribute equally to the pension fund. Right now it's, some cities it's like 11 to 1, the city versus the employee. This makes some changes, but again, going forward slowly as employees get replaced. There is also a measure that's got to be on the ballot to say to existing employees, your year-over-year pension cost of living will be 2% or inflation, whichever is less. Now that's got to go to the ballot very simply because the Constitution says you may not impair pension benefits already earned and you have contractual arrangements. So the hope is that the voters will do this. Firefighters and police have signed on. I think they recognize this. It's a very delicately crafted deal, which goes to the issue of what happens in the House for the simple reason that the House thinks we can get a better deal. Well, if you do and the firefighters and police come off,
right, there's a real delicateness to the fact that everybody agreed, firefighters and police are agreeing to take less, and the legislatures, made some concessions as well, and, they found Bigfoot, they came together. So whatever changes happen in the House, depending on how major they are, could really have a detrimental effect on this alliance here, this fragile alliance. So.
Well, this piggybacks as a sequel to what City of Phoenix went through with Sal DiCiccio and the mayor trying to figure out their own pension spiking problem. The dichotomy here is you have so many private sector employees out there that only have a 401k that maybe gets matched. We have a lot of people in this state that work in the service industries, they have no retirement at all. And then you look at some of the numbers of some of these folks that are getting these pensions from public safety occupations, the big lump sums, $250,000, big annual pay that they get out of this. So I do think we're right in that they are taking a kind of a logical approach to this. The key is just to keep everybody together to herd all the cats.
And the issue becomes, yes, could you say for all future employees you're only going to have a 401k style plan, what they call a defined contribution plan? Possibly, but would you get people to go into police and firefighting? Are the salaries high enough for them to say we're willing to do that? And that becomes the delicate balance here.
You have a major group, the Arizona Tax Research Association, that said this doesn't go far enough to help with that debt issue. And they in committee said that they agreed with everything that's there. They'd like a little bit more. So we don't know how influential they'll be in the House. Justin Olson used to work there, so they obviously have some ties, and I guess we'll see. I mean, it should be happening quickly, but they haven't committed to actually doing it quickly.
And the reason it has to happen quickly is that change that we talked about has to go on the May 17th ballot with Prop 123. Secretary of State's office says we need it on our desk by February 15th to make that happen. So it's obviously in the next week something's going to happen, and the question is, does Justin go to war with Debbie Lesko, who pushed it through the Senate?
Mike, I want to move on to an interesting poll that came out this week indicating that John McCain might be in trouble against Ann Kirkpatrick. What do we make of this?
Yeah, the latest one has it pretty much 1 point, and I think Kirkpatrick was ahead by 10 with independents. It's a sixth term for McCain. It's an outsider year, definitely, with Trump and Sanders nationally kind of pushing. There's a lot of frustration, but the poll didn't show Kelly Ward doing very well, who is an outsider in compared to McCain. Tea Party physician, very conservative. You would think that if the outsider thing was playing well within Republican circles, which everyone seems to think so, she would be doing better. Kirkpatrick's been around a long time, a Flagstaff congresswoman running for the Senate, but she's doing very well. So those numbers are kind of uneven to me.
Yeah, but the question is, how long does that last? You may not like John McCain as a Republican. Are you ready to vote for Ann Kirkpatrick? Look, John McCain has what, $5 million at last count in his war chest. It's good to be the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, and you can get a lot of money that way. They're going to paint Kirkpatrick as way too liberal, which is funny because, as we all know, she's been very careful on issues of environment and everything else coming from Flagstaff, not to go off the deep end. She supported some of the mining issues like that. But you know that's how McCain is going to paint
This
her.
is one of those watershed years where you could see somebody like McCain lose, just get swept up in an outsider type swell, because there's so much frustration nationally. The presidential race is all about outsiders, Cruz, Trump, Sanders, and McCain embodies an incumbent senator. He's been there a long time, and you can point at things like the VA. How much improvement have we actually had there with that? But you would think that would show up in the Republican primary also.
I think we need to be careful too, not to put too much stock in one poll here. There's been so many polls this year and every year that are just wildly different from one another. So it's important to not say this poll is the end all be all. Kirkpatrick's got an upswing here and she's just going to continue to rise. We don't know that from this one.
But one thing I did, there was this Republican-oriented super PAC that's running pro-McCain ads on Fox News in the lead up to the Iowa caucuses, touting his stance on ISIS and foreign policy, and that shows that there is some concern there. He is going to have a lot of money. He's got name ID, but sometimes name ID doesn't work in your advantage when people don't like incumbents.
So McCain losing wouldn't exactly be hell freezes over, but would it be the equivalent of the Phoenix City Council holding back Satan this week, Mike?
Probably.
Ooh, nice segue.
The Satanists win, right? The Satanists won. They were going to have a prayer later this month at a council meeting, just like they have other interfaith prayers. There's Christian and Jewish and Muslim folks that go before them and say the prayer. And then the Satanists applied, and it's the First Amendment, equal protection. We got to give them a shot. And so the 5 members of the council decided to just end prayer. Have a moment of silence, and then the Satanist temple, those folks said, well, that's kind of what we wanted anyways. This is getting a lot of national attention because this can go on every city, every town, every council that has a prayer before that. And so it was a really tough constitutional legal issue for the city, because if they denied them, you had the First Amendment pop up, and here they sue the city.
We've actually had this come up at the Capitol, where we have some folks who are atheists. One guy gave an atheist prayer, and I'll use the term loosely, a non-prayer, and got slapped essentially by the leadership for saying, well, no, this is supposed to be a prayer. Well, okay, depends. Does a prayer require an almighty? Or can a prayer be, it's a prayer for peace, which does not have to have, dear Lord, it could be to whom it may concern,
Right, and the Satanists, the ones working at the Phoenix City Council, they're not Satan worshipers. I think there was some confusion about that. Like Mike said, one of the main goals was to kind of enforce that separation of church and state, and they got what they wanted. So.
Yeah. And Mike, really briefly, some members of council want this to go to the ballot so the voters can decide, is this kicking the can down the road, as some elected
This is a
officials
Sal
like to do?
DiCiccio special.
Okay.
Sal is wonderful in PR in the media world. That's his background. He knows a good issue and a winning side of an issue. You're either with God or you're with Satan, and Sal's with God on this one. Yeah. And the 5 members of the council, while it was legally made sense, the image-wise, the PR-wise, it's obviously a loser.
But again, it doesn't matter whether it's enacted by the council or enacted by the voters. What's constitutional is constitutional, what's not is not. And if all you want to do is buy a lawsuit, hey, we're going to make the lawyers very, very happy.
But Howie, very briefly as we close, are you with God or Satan on this one?
Well, it depends. Who's signing my paycheck this week?
Howie,
A
Mike?
Faustian bargain there.
Yes.
Mike, Rachel, Howie, thanks so much. Great discussion. Monday on Arizona Horizon, we discuss kidney disease awareness and prevention with the founders of 1 in 9, and we'll explore Japanese culture with a trip to the Japanese Friendship Garden in Phoenix. That's Monday on Arizona Horizon. Thanks very much for watching tonight. I'm Steve Goldstein. Have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.